of the organized labor, inclusive economic policies, and wage reforms. Speaking during a meeting with a delegation led by the Visiting Director General of the International Labour Organization, Mr. Gilbert Humbo, and the Minister of Labour and Employment, Alhaji Muhammad Dingyadi, at the State House, Abuja, Shatima lauded what he described as Nigeria's vibrant labor movement and its role in national development. The Vice President noted that the global workforce transformation and Nigeria's potential to bridge talent gaps, citing the country's youthful population as a major advantage. He expressed confidence in the country's future workforce, saying young people are digitally more literate. While some traditional jobs may disappear, new opportunities will emerge and will equip the youth with the skills to thrive in the evolving global economy. In his remarks, the ILO DG, Mr. Humbo, appealed to the federal government to speed up the finalization of the reform of the Labor Code, even as he sought the support of the Vice President for the revival of the National Labour Advisory Council. The National Assembly has defended its approval of the 2025 Appropriation Bill, pointing out that the adjustment followed legislative reviews that identified additional revenues from key government agencies. It said the concerns over inadequate rail infrastructure funding for the Southeast were raised, but lawmakers clarified that such projects are largely financed through public-private partnerships. According to the legislators, the 2025 budget prioritizes light rail development in Lagos, Ogun, Kaduna, and Kano, with further discussions ongoing for Southeast projects. Chairman of the Senate Committee on Appropriations, Adiola Olamileko, also noted that key revenue parameters for the budget remain unchanged, explaining that the FIRS has increased its revenue target to 25.1 trillion naira. The Nigeria Customs Service is boosting collection through stricter enforcement, and independent revenue agencies are contributing 100% of their generated funds to the federal government. The chairman of the Presidential Committee on Fiscal Policy and Tax Reforms, Taiwo Oyedele, has said that the current tax laws in Nigeria are unconducive for growth. Oyedele said this at the inaugural Economic Roundtable 2025 Macroeconomic Outlook event of rating firm held in Lagos. After months, the House of Representatives has passed the 4 tax reform bills for a second reading and referred them to the Finance Committee of the House for further legislative work, including a public hearing. Speaking at the event where he was a keynote speaker, Oyedele said that the committee has found that Nigeria's tax system is unconducive for growth. According to him, the committee taxes anything and everything that moves. On the foreign exchange, he maintained that the fiscal authorities were in good stead to handle the situation. And while a renowned economist, Dr. Doyin Salami, has called for efficient and effective spending by the government, lamenting the instability of the economy. The senator representing Ondo South Senatorial District, Jimoh Ibrahim, has cautioned the United Nations against proposing a global tax fund the Sustainable Development Goals. He described the move as inappropriate and unacceptable, saying the international system is anarchic and lacks the authority to compel compliance from member states. He further asserted that there is no comprehensive international system in place to ensure the workability of such a policy. Senator Ibrahim made the statement during the opening session of the Interparliamentary meeting of the United Nations Global Parliament in New York, saying global taxes will further exacerbate inequality within the geocentric system and could also increase poverty, undermining the United Nations efforts to eradicate poverty by 2030. The Southwest Governors Forum, comprising the governors of Osun, Lagos, Ogun, Oyo, Ekiti, and Ondo states, have agreed to establish a joint security surveillance to tackle terrorists under the banner of the Islamic State for West African Province. This is revealed after a meeting of all the 6 governors in the region, namely Senator Ademola Adeleke of Osun State, Babajide Sanwo-Olu of Lagos, Dapo Abiodun Ogun, Seyi Makinde Oyo, and Lucky Ayedatiwa Ondo, held at the Governor's Office, Lagos House, Alausai Keja. The move comes amid earlier reports of infiltration of the terrorists into some forests in the southwest region. Governor Makinde had warned that bandits fleeing military operations in the northwest were seeking refuge in Oyo. At an annual interfaith service for workers held at the Secretariat Agodi Ibadan, Governor Makinde said during a security briefing that some bad elements from the northwest are relocating to Oyo State due to military heat in their zones. The Department of State Services had also recently arrested 10 suspected members of ISWAP in Ilesha, Osun State. The arrest came to public knowledge when the DSS in January sought an order from a federal high court in Abuja to detain the suspects for 60 days, an order Justice Emeka Nwite granted. Governor Ademola Adeleke has assured all stakeholders in the forthcoming local government elections slated for February 22nd of non-interference from the state government. The governor, who held the peaceful campaigns by various political parties ahead of the elections, urged candidates across party lines to sell their agenda to the voting public instead of resorting to violence. He noted that his government is committed to a free and fair elections. While commending the preparatory activities of the electoral umpire, he assured that the Commission will conduct a credible election. In a statement by his spokesperson, Malam Olawale Rashid, the governor restores the level of literacy of Osun people, which is all-time high, and by implication, Osun is not a state where residents can be lied to. According to the governor, the people can read and digest court rulings and cannot be hoodwinked by political gladiators. While noting that Nigeria is a nation governed by law, the judiciary being the harbinger of hope for the common man, the people must avoid misrepresentation and misinformation about court processes. The statement further reminds the people of their sacred duty to avoid fake news, which is an offense punishable under the law, while warning elements within the opposition with the intent to foment crisis in Osun State to desist because of its grave consequences. The governor states that as the Chief Security Officer of Osun State, he had directed security agencies to deal decisively with any promoter of violence within the context of rule of law, as he will not allow the state to be plunged into a baseless conflict, while noting that democracy is about ballot papers and not guns and cutlass. The governor re-emphasized the capacity of his government to defend the country's democratic heritage, while urging the people to go to the poll on the 22nd February peacefully to make their preference known. Alhaja Mewolaka Fashakin, an online critic of Governor Ademola Adeleke, has expressed satisfaction with the level of development Osun has attained in just 2 years and few months that the governor has been in the saddle, warning the opposition to be reasonable with their campaigns against Governor Ademola Adeleke.
When I was criticizing Governor Ademola Adeleke when he was campaigning for governorship, thank God he became the governor, because Osun State has never had it better. From the health sector to the education to the agriculture to every sector in this thing, you have never had it better. It's indeed a mole time, and I pray, I hope it will continue for a very long time.
Well, like I said, I wish to fact check what Governor Adeleke has achieved in all areas was ignited by the level of denigration of the person of the governor, his administration, by the main opposition in the state. She speaks further.
Wasn't a personal thing. It was because of the impression that I had about him. I think it was because I believe he's a socialite. He wouldn't want to attend to the plight of the citizen. But to my amazement, after a few years or few months in office, I started seeing the good things he had been doing for the people of Osun State, and which had never happened before. Even in the so-called parties that I used to believe in the so-called elites, the serious one that I believe will be the one that will have saved Osun State. So seeing his good works, seeing the new constructions, what he had been doing in health sectors, what he did concerning the NLC, the Labour Council, and the way he had been taking care of the masses in Osun State. That was what made me change my mind. I rather say I was pushed by the opposition party to do such. What? Because I was bullied for writing a simple post that says this man seems to be performing beyond my expectation, and I was bullied for that. I was called a liar, which made me decided to find out the truth. I am not getting to Osun State. I realized you people have something called fact check. So I just joined it. I keyed into the system, and it's been wonderful.
The National Examinations Council has blacklisted 14 examination centers for their involvement in examination malpractice across 9 subjects. The 14 centers were identified in 2 southwest states, Ogun and Oyo. 10 centers were blacklisted in Ogun State, while 4 were blacklisted in Oyo State. NECO Registrar Professor Dantani Wushishi disclosed these at the Council's headquarters in Mina, Niger State, during a media briefing where he announced the release of the 2024 Senior School Certificate Examination external results today. The registrar also stated that the names of the blacklisted centers and supervisors will be forwarded to other examination bodies for further sanctions. According to him, 7 supervisors, 2 each from Oyo and Ogun, and 1 each from Lagos, Cross River, and Ebonyi, were recommended for blacklisting due to poor supervision, lateness, and aiding and abetting malpractice during the examination. He added that the Federal Ministry of Education has mandated that the names of the centers and supervisors involved in the malpractice be sent to 6-star examination bodies, including JAMB and WAEC. The role of transformative guidance and counseling practices in mitigating crimes and maladaptive behaviors among the youths cannot be overemphasized. A professor of guidance and counseling and provost, College of Education, Osun State University, Ikpetu Ijesha, Florence Yusuf, made this known while delivering the 24th inaugural lecture of the university. OSBC reporter Oluchi Amuda completes the story.
Challenging dominant narratives, heterodox and transforming counseling practices for social justice and change was the title of the 24th inaugural lecture series of the Osun State University delivered by the Provost College of Education in Ipetu-Ijesha, Professor Florence Yusuf, a professor of guidance and counseling. The inaugural lecture held at the Laguson Oyinlola Auditorium, main campus of Uni Osun, Osogbo, brought together dignitaries from far and near and provided a unique platform for Professor Yusuf to share her research outputs, insights, and knowledge with fellow scholars, students, policymakers, administrators, and the general public, thus contributing to the intellectual and scholarly life of the institution.
As I progressed in my study, I realized that this thing was more than just an academic process for me. It became an eye-opener to my past challenges, a source of truth for my personal development and growth, and an avenue to assist others to develop their potential and make informed decisions in every aspect of life. Our society today is filled with cultural norms and expectations that limit individual potential. Women especially are faced with social class disparities, stigma, gender role and stereotypes, poverty and financial struggles, systemic injustice, inequality and social exclusion, peer pressure, bullying, body image concern and family conflict.
Professor Florence Yusuf, who described counseling as the learning which helps individuals to learn, relearn, and understand themselves and their environment, identifies societal vices that require heterodox and transforming counseling practices to include the insidious effects of bullying and peer pressure in society, stigma and shame in sexual health, gender-based violence in a modern society, cyberbullying and digital literacy, drug abuse among youth, stress and academic pressure among youth, as well as mental health issues in adolescents, among others. She maintained that the role of transformative guidance and counseling practices in mitigating crimes and maladaptive behaviors among youth cannot be overemphasized, hence the need for the government and policymakers to shift attention from crime and punishment syndrome to crime and violence preventive measures.
It was the strong position of this paper that questioning strategies such as rational electric therapy, assessing training skills, and peer modeling techniques has the potency to effectively inculcate positive balance in youth. This paper suggested, as a matter of policy, that government should shift attention from the crime and punishment syndrome to crime and violence preventive measures and make proactive efforts to address the root causes of major crime through community counseling intervention.
In his remarks, the Vice Chancellor of Osun State University, Professor Clement Adeboye, expressed appreciation to the government, the governing board of the school, and traditional rulers, fellow scholars, as well as everyone who honored the institution with their presence. Professor Adeboye reaffirmed that Osun State University remains committed to its vision of creating a unique institution committed to the pursuit of academic innovation, skill-based training, and a tradition for excellence in teaching, research, and community service.
There are different ways of counseling people, as said by Professor Yusuf. I was more of a nuisance than she was when she was known. When my mother tried everything and I didn't tell her, she went to buy the national tape player. You remember that tape player? That the one on which you put cassette. And Kaliki just released a song that time. It was something like this. It was a magazine. When I didn't give to her dancer, then she opted for that methodology to change me. So anytime I went out and I came back late in the night, then she would put the tape. And the music would start. I would be seated eating my dinner. It was a magazine. It was a magazine. And then she would be dancing in front of me. Then I realized that I was going down the drain and I changed my style.
Oluchi Amuda, Osbc News.
The Minister of Interior, Olubunmi Tunji-Ojo, has condemned the Canadian Embassy's denial of visa to Chief of Defense Staff General Christopher Musa. The controversy unfolded when General Musa revealed that He and several senior military officers were not granted visa to attend an event in Canada meant to honor war veterans. While some members of the delegation were granted visas, others were left stranded after their applications were denied. Musa expressed disappointment, calling the incident a wake-up call for Nigeria to strengthen its sovereignty and resist being taken for granted by foreign nations. Tunjojo, who appeared as a guest on a television channel, said the action by the Canadian embassy is condemnable and shows a lack of respect for Nigeria. Elder statesman and chieftain of the Pan-Yoruba Socio-Cultural Organization Afenifere, Pa Ayodele Adebanjo, has died at the age of 96 this morning at his residence in Lekki, Lagos State. The family confirmed his death in a statement jointly signed by his children. The family also disclosed that consultations are ongoing with Adebanjo's friends, associates and various interest groups across the country and beyond to finalize plans for a befitting burial. According to the statement, details of the funeral arrangement will be announced in due course, adding that a condolence register has been opened at his residence in Lagos and his country home in Isanya, Ugbo, near Ijebu-Ode, Ogun State. You are welcome to our sports segment. Seven-time champions Flying Eagles will battle with Egypt, South Africa and Morocco in Group B of the 2025 Under-20 AFCON scheduled for Côte d'Ivoire between April 26 and May 18. The draw for the tournament was made at the CAF headquarters in Cairo, Egypt, and it's the second consecutive time Nigeria will be in the same group as Egypt in the competition. It will be recalled that the Flying Eagles pipped the young Pharaohs, who were also hosts of the last edition 1-0 in a group phase match in 2023, and they must ensure a great start to their campaign in Côte d'Ivoire to build confidence for a tough tournament, which would also serve as the qualifiers for the 2025 Under-20 World Cup in Chile from September 27 to October 19. And on the foreign scene, the remains of 14 South African peacekeepers who tragically lost their lives in the Democratic Republic of Congo were repatriated to South Africa. The soldiers were honored with a ceremony at the Air Force Base in Pretoria. While addressing the ceremony, President Cyril Ramaphosa paid tribute to the soldiers' bravery and sacrifice. The soldiers were killed last month during violent clashes between the DRC Army and M23 rebels. President Ramaphosa further emphasized the significance of the soldiers' mission in the DRC, noting that South Africans regard them as heroes of their nation, stressing that their work in the DRC was not just about maintaining order, but building bridges, peace, fostering understanding, and creating pathways for lasting peace in the region and African continent. The soldiers' coffins wrapped in South African flags were carried with reverence by members of the Air Force. The remains were then handed over to their grieving families who were present to honor their loved ones. And with that report from the foreign scene, we've come to the end of the major reports on Osbc TV. It was edited by Michael Adeni. I am Babatunde Fanopo saying thank you for watching. Good night.